to Mr. Joachim Bitterlich. Sir, this nuclear threat, which is now being given out, is quite serious. Even if it is positioning, even if it is posturing, it is causing great concern. In the last 3 hours, we've seen the nuclear alert being pulled out by Mr. Putin. We've seen an informal reaction from NATO saying it's very irresponsible. And the world is beginning to get extremely concerned, Mr. Bitterlich, about how this can escalate. What are your thoughts at this moment as the talks begin?
Well, the threat on nuclear has been from the beginning of this unprovoked aggression to Ukraine. Putin announced it from the beginning that he may use nuclear forces. And what he means by this is at least telling if NATO is interfering actively in this Russian aggression in order to defend the Ukraine, this is for the Russians the case of using nuclear if they judge it necessary. NATO is not interfering directly. Ukraine is not a member of NATO. Therefore, Article 5 is not to be taken into consideration. It's on another field that NATO member states are supporting, to a certain extent, the Ukraine in this field. There's even a change in the positioning of the German government, which has been expected in the last days, today by Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who for the first time has clearly indicated what this German government is thinking about Putin's aggression. He appointed Putin as a war criminal. This is a totally new German position. It's a clearer German positioning, being on the side on NATO members in Eastern Europe who fear really that Ukraine is only a first step that could be followed by other steps in the following months and years. And there is the risk. Putin is trying to change the Europe's map as designed from 1990 on. That means over the last 30 years. I stop here, I think, to introduce the subject.
The question therefore is, and I'd like to take that to Velina Chakarova, this is real, Ms. Chakarova. And what Putin is doing, we are in no position to read his mind. He's trying to ensure that NATO and the West do not support Ukraine any further. Russia has suffered reverses. It can finish its conquest of Ukraine if there is no further help, either directly or indirectly, especially in terms of military hardware. And he's obviously worried about the prospect of tougher economic sanctions. With this nuclear card now played out, will the West, NATO, America respond differently? Should they respond more cautiously with Russia now?
Well, this is a very hard question to answer. First, Russia threatened to deploy tactical nuclear weapons already during the military escalation in December. That was part of the package. So the West, that means the United States and the European NATO members, and of course the other international partners, were prepared for this scenario, given the actually impossible conditions that were put by Russia to the United States and to the NATO following the military escalation. Now, we were all caught by surprise given the full-scale military invasion of Ukraine. I think that with a very minor group of military experts, most security experts and analysts were caught by surprise that there will be a military attack against Ukraine. That was absolutely sure. But the anticipation was that it would actually, entail more or less eastern Ukraine, the regions of Donetsk and Lugansk. And of course, given the ongoing developments, the Russia's treatment with the threat by Russia to basically use the nuclear card was also part of the portfolio. Now we are in a completely different situation. That is the first thing that we need to consider and discuss, because given the absolutely surprising way how Putin decided to make a move on Ukraine, I wouldn't exclude the deployment of tactical nukes if Ukraine, which is putting up a fight, has actually shown an incredible resistance. So, given the developments on the battlefield, that might be also part of Putin's response. Now, when it comes to the tactical nuclear weapons, Russia is definitely in an advantage. That means that the number of the tactical nuclear weapons as compared to the American ones is much higher, around 2,000. Then we have also a scenario developing in Belarus with the referendum taking place today. And I wouldn't exclude a scenario where we would end up with Belarus becoming exiting the neutral status and becoming a playground for the deployment of Russian tactical nukes. So we have to deal with very serious developments which are actually taking place ad hoc. I wouldn't, at this stage of the developments, depending on, of course, on the further outcomes on the battlefield. And right now, Ukraine, as I said, has actually good chances to start with diplomatic talks and also to continue sustaining the Russian attacks and to have also a psychological effect, which is why the risk of a decision to use tactical nukes is increasing, and that